We're so happy. We have so much gratitude for you joining us today.
I'm so happy to be here, and 32 is my lucky number, so maybe we should use that as
Okay,
our
all
go.
right. All right, we're going to start. I want to start by thanking you all with so much gratitude for you being here today. Yoga Moves MS, this is the first time we've done a great giving and gratitude challenge, and we're so excited to see the interest. I'm going to start out by thanking Dr. Sullivan for being here and reading her bio to you. It's quite extensive. There's no way I can memorize this.
You can cut half of it. Just post it.
Dr. Sullivan is the Director of Behavioral Medicine and Research in the Mellen Center for MS, Director of the Neurological Institute Engagement and Wellbeing, and is the Chair of the Institute's Diversity Leadership Development. Dr. Sullivan's work has focused on mental health in people with chronic diseases and their family members, as well as physician burnout and diversity empowerment. Her work in academic medicine intersects with teaching, mentoring, programmatic development, and strategic initiatives. She is an expert in group dynamics and curriculum development, as well as psychological factors impacting multiple sclerosis. Her most recent work has been in transforming clinical practice with telemedicine and COVID-related stress. She has over 100 media appearances and over 250 national and international talks. She has also contributed over 30 times to the literature and book chapters. Dr. Sullivan is an invited member of a select group of wellness researchers through the National MS Society, and she and her research team were the recipient of the Robert Herndon Award for Most Outstanding IGMSC Article. Dr. Sullivan was most recently the 2021 recipient of the School of Medicine Faculty Mentor of the Year Award. She also received a Scholarship and Teaching Award through the School of Medicine, and she was the recipient of the Outstanding Early Career Psychologist Award by the Cleveland Psychological Association. She was also honored to receive the Extraordinary Graduate of St. Bonaventure University Award and named Woman of Outstanding Leadership in Healthcare. No wonder why. In addition to her clinical and teaching role, she is passionate about physician self-care, burnout, diversity, and leadership and psychological health, and is the director of the Neurological Institute Engagement and Wellbeing Office, where she works to improve physician well-being in her institute. Wow. Prior to her medical career, she was a Division I basketball player for St. Bonaventure University and played in prestigious Atlantic 10 Conference. I'll let these people in. This is an amazing bio. Dr. Sullivan has learned the skill of work-life balance with both of her passions, her family, boy-girl twins, and her husband and her career. Please follow her at #NormalizeNotStigmatize on Twitter at Dr. Amy B. Sullivan. Thank you so much for being here. So much gratitude.
Oh, absolutely. I'm so happy that you asked me to do this particularly, Mindy. This is near and dear to my heart. And I know you and I have talked about mantras before, but gratitude is right here. It sits right on my heart, and it leads to a lot of joy for me.
And a wonderful way to start the year.
Yeah.
So everyone, as you've joined, please put your questions in the chat and let us know where you're from as we begin our discussion. So
I see people from all over the country. This is so cool. I had to turn my chats off because they're making me nervous. There's all kinds of questions, and I figure you guys will filter those for me. But I saw some people from Michigan and Florida and Wisconsin, all over the place. It's so fun.
Sure is.
You don't want me to go right?
No, I said right at the
All
light.
right. Doctor, so make sure you guys are all muting yourselves. Okay. All right. Mute. It's not that we don't want to hear your voice. It's that we want everybody to hear Dr. Sullivan. All right. All right, Dr. Sullivan. How should we start out? What makes you excited about giving and gratitude? Why are you
Well,
so excited to talk about
I
it?
know, I really am. This is honestly that I've been looking forward to this for so long. I feel like there's all of us have important ways that we want to be, as I call them, my mantras. I'm sure many of you would say the same thing, but they're basically feelings and actions of why or who you want to be. And so you and I have spoken about my bracelets. I had to make sure to wear them today. I just want to show everybody on my wrist. I wear my mantras. I don't know if you can see them, so I'll have to read them to you. But these are my own mantras, and these are the actions that are important to me and remind me to live by them daily. So for me, I wear gratitude, I wear joy, I wear love, strength, hope, and grace. And to me, those are so very important to who I am as a human being, who I am as a mom, as a wife, as a psychologist, and just how I try to live my life. So for me, joy is the word that's the most important and meaningful to me. And I strive to bring joy to all situations that I'm in, and to people that I'm around. And I feel like the way for me to get to joy is through gratitude. So these link so closely. And so when we think about the thing that makes me so excited about gratitude is that a gratitude practice really changes, at least mine, and I hope it changes all of yours, your spirit and your thoughts and what you hear and how you approach the world. And I think one of the things that I'll share is that, you know, we all go through transitions in our lives, and sometimes it's not easy. It's not easy to feel joy or to feel gratitude. But I think the feeling of joy is so worth it. And so to get to joy, I think it's through gratitude. So that's what makes me so excited about gratitude and being here today to share some of that.
When you say it's not easy, what do you mean by that?
Yeah. So I think we all go through peaks and valleys in our lives. And it's during those down times where I think we learn the most. And I know for me, I've had a lot of difficult things with my health. And so when I've gone through very difficult times, I know there's times when, and I'm sure all of you guys can relate to this too, there's times when you question why me, or this is just not fun, this is just scary, this is anxiety provoking. But when I look back on those times, I mean, like, right, we've all beat these very difficult days. We have 100% track record with that because we're all here today. But when I look back on those very difficult times, those valleys in my life, I really wouldn't change them for anything, for the world. What I can tell you today is that I'm very grateful that I've gone through very difficult situations. I think it makes you a more empathetic person. You appreciate life more, you love more deeply. I think there are many great things that come out of very difficult situations. And so the way that I look at it is kind of, we're all going to go through some rainstorms. But what I've noticed is that going through those rainstorms, I always find the rainbow. And I think it's important that we're always looking up and looking for that rainbow because it could be right in front of your face and we could miss it. And so I think that's what I'm referring to with how difficult it may be.
So what does a giving and gratitude practice look like?
Yeah. I've thought a lot about this because I teach this in my practice, and I also try to model it in my life with, you know, the people that live with me, the people that are the most important to me. And for me, and it may look different for others, but for me, it starts with a thought. So one of the things about psychologists is we're trained in a theory called cognitive behavioral therapy. And so in cognitive behavioral therapy, we realize that our thoughts create behaviors. And in this case, it's kind of a negative thing, but I want to look at it as more the positive. So looking more at the positive psychology. So with gratitude, for me, it looks like a thought. So it starts as like, maybe there is something that I'm grateful for. And maybe I should start focusing more on that, which then leads to a behavior. So the behavior may be, now I'm going to, talk to people about how grateful I am for them, or journal how grateful I am. And then eventually that behavior feels so good, it becomes an everyday practice. And it's something that we start to do on a very regular basis to get that feeling of joy. It's not a one size fits all though, Mindy. I think it's something that you have to individualize to each person. So it can start with something as simple as a gratitude journal, like I just said a few minutes ago, where you can just start to journal in the AM and the PM, and these can be something so small that you start with. So I'm grateful to have a good book to read, or this blanket that is so soft and warm, or something large, which is I'm grateful for, one of the things that I'm grateful for is my daughter. Despite the fact that we have this big long couch, she wants to sit so close to me that I can feel her body heat. And sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, Annalyn, you're so hot. But I'm so grateful that she still wants to sit that close to me on the couch. And these are things that I think about on a regular basis. It's really what it is. It's learning to find that rainbow, as we were talking about a few moments ago, in all situations. And I think it may feel contrived to practice gratitude at first, but I think the mental state and the feelings grow really strong each time we use it. It's just like your yoga practice, and you guys are the experts on that. It's that each time you do a pose or you use a muscle, you get stronger. And I think the brain and the feeling and the practice of gratitude are the same. Each time we do it, it grows stronger. And the stronger it grows, the more joy that we have. So you'll hear me saying all throughout this that gratitude and joy are so closely tied. And I think that that's one of the key takeaways that I hope that people take from this, is the more grateful you are, the more joyful you are.
So what would be some like realistic ways to start? Like you mentioned saying to yourself or journaling. So can you just say it to yourself, like as you're waking up or going to bed or throughout your day? How do you recommend going about this?
Yeah, I think no matter what situation we're in, and I think that, some people have really wonderful lives that are pretty easy, and then there's people like me who have had a lot of bumps in the road, and they're more difficult. And no matter what, I think it's important for us to recognize that each and every person has something to be grateful for. I was diagnosed with breast cancer when I was 37. My children were 4 years old. It was very, very difficult for our family to have something so serious at such a young event. Backtrack just a couple years prior to that. So when my children were born, I dissected my coronary artery delivering them. So I had a SCAD. So 2 life-threatening events within a 4-year period. And for our family, that was very, very difficult to face. And I think that when I was going through those situations, and I think this is why I love working with people with MS, because I can't relate completely to what they're going through, but I can certainly have more empathy because I've been through some pretty significant things myself. I think that it was in those situations where I realized, okay, I have to figure out how to still find joy in my life despite this deep anxiety that I have, that there's something going on a consistent basis. For me, it felt like for a very, very long time. And so it wasn't immediately. It was something that I worked on a very regular basis to start writing down or journaling. These are the things that I'm grateful for today, which eventually led to me being more outwardly grateful. So then I would say, to whomever I was grateful for, gosh, I'm so grateful that you're in my life and you're helping me through this very difficult situation, or you're helping me with something with my kids or whatever it may be. And so then it became this verbalized gratitude. And then it became this kind of like, I realized, gosh, that makes me feel so good. And I know it makes other people feel so good when you're telling them that you're thankful for them. So it's kind of this two-way street. And I felt like it was really important to me because it brought me joy to be able to share how grateful I am for people and for things that people would do for me. So for me, it started very small. It started with starting to read. I learned about some of this in grad school. There's a lot of great studies that I've, read, and happiness studies, positive psychology studies, gratitude studies, but you don't really think about it when you're going through grad school and you're kind of like, okay, this is just something that I have to learn, until you hit situations where you're like, okay, I really want to work on this. This is something that's important to me. And I started to go back to some of those studies, look at those, starting, start small, starting those small practices and moving forward.
Can you tell us about some of these studies that you
Yeah.
have read about gratitude?
Absolutely. There's three that really stand out to me. So the first is, let me think of the names real quickly. I know they're out of the University of California. There's two psychologists out of the University of California who have done a lot of research on gratitude. And in one study, they had asked their participants to write a few sentences each week focusing on particular topics, whatever it may be. So one group wrote about things that they were grateful for and that had occurred during the week. So very similar to what we're talking about with a gratitude journal. The second group wrote about daily irritation. So on the complete opposite side, right? Or things that had displeased them. And the third wrote about events that had affected them with no emphasis really on positive or negative. They could just write whatever they wanted to write. So after 10 weeks in the study, those who wrote about gratitude were much more optimistic, and they felt better about their lives than the other two groups. And surprisingly, they also exercised more and had fewer visits to physicians than those who focused on sources of aggravation. And I think the literature is full of all the positive benefits that we can see from gratitude, both psychological and physiological. And this certainly showed us that. Now, while there's no cause and effect, at least we have this information that shows us that these people were not, visiting their physicians as much. Another study is by a psychologist that I love. His name's Martin Seligman, and he's at the University of Pennsylvania. And what he did was he tested the impact of various positive psychology interventions on a large group of people, each compared with a control assignment of writing about their early memories. And so when these individuals were writing, they were to personally deliver a letter of gratitude to someone who they had never properly thanked, kind of what I was talking about before. They had never properly thanked about their kindness. And what he found were that the people that were in the study immediately exhibited a huge increase in happiness scores. And this impact was greater than that from any other intervention with benefits lasting for a month. And finally, there was a study by John Gottman, and John Gottman is kind of the father of family and couples therapy. And when I was learning about him in graduate school, I was just so fascinated with him, with just the way that he treated couples. And one of his exercises that he did in therapy was he instructed one spouse. So one spouse knew about this intervention and the other spouse did not. So he instructed one of the spouses to do something nice for their other spouse for 30 days. And they were not allowed to share that they were, doing this intervention on them. And so what this intervention found were that the person who was doing something intentionally nice for their other partner found that the happiness of both partners started to increase substantially at about 15 days. So what had happened was the other partner started to see that, realize that their spouse was doing something very nice for them. And so they started to do very nice things for their spouse as well. So I think all of these interventions are things that we can learn from. They don't prove cause and effect, but most of the studies published on this topic at least support an association between gratitude and an individual's well-being and improved relationships. And when we talk about well-being, it's both psychological and physiological.
Thank you. That's pretty
Yeah.
fascinating. I love how they designed that. As you said, writing about irritations, I'm thinking, oh, that doesn't sound very fun.
Right,
I wonder if they
right.
felt worse.
I know. Yeah, so they did. They felt worse, and their happiness scores were lower. So I think it's kind of again, it's this positive psychology. It's about figuring out who you want to be in the world and projecting that forward. So if we choose to be miserable, then that's a choice, right? And we project that into the world. If we choose to be grateful, that's a choice. If we choose to be joyful, that's a choice. You have to identify what is important to you, and you create that life. That life is not given to anybody. We create that life.
Yeah, and this is something proactive we can do to feel better. I
Yeah.
love how some of you are putting in the chat what you do for your gratitude practice. We have people who journal. They have a specific journal that is called their gratitude journal. We have a happiness jar. I love that too.
I love that.
They put something joyful in it as often as possible.
Do they write it, or do they put an item in there?
It says, I try to keep a happiness jar each year and put something joyful in as often as possible. It's so gratifying to open it on January 1st and see how much good really happened throughout
I
the year.
love that. I'm going to steal that and use that. We can do it. It's only January 5th, so we can do it for the year.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. See, you all have ideas. I love it. I love it.
I love them. Thank you for sharing those.
And we did, just so you know, in our emails, you might have seen it, but we have prompts for you. So if you want to think about a specific idea for the day, or you just want somebody to give you an idea, we have prompts we're putting in social media and also in those emails. I know it was kind of long. And there's also a journal page if you want to just jot something down. If you don't like writing, maybe dictate it to yourself. That would be an interesting way to do it as well. An option, make it your own. So what have they given any specific benefits in these studies, or that you've personally seen, or stories that you might have about the benefits that people have reaped from doing a gratitude practice? Yeah.
I think there's so many benefits from gratitude. I think the feelings, as we were talking about earlier, the intensity of joy, the psychological benefits of calming the sympathetic nervous system. So for me, that's so very important. When I treat my MS patients, we always talk about the sympathetic nervous system. There's so much literature tied to the fact that stress and MS are so closely related. And so from my practice, I think it's very important that I teach my patients about the sympathetic nervous system. And so basically what the sympathetic nervous system is if you go back to your biology classes, probably 7th, 8th grade, when you learned about the fight or flight response. So when that tiger was chasing somebody, back in the days of the hunters and the gatherers, that tiger would chase and the person would run. It's basically escaping danger. But what happens to our sympathetic nervous system is that all of these things are turned on. Our heart rate increases, our blood pressure increases, and all these negative things happen to our body when the sympathetic nervous system is turned on. So we don't sleep as well. We're more fatigued. We have more inflammation in the body. We don't respond to stress well, essentially. So it's an evolutionary thing that happened, decades, eons ago. But unfortunately, we now don't know how to turn off that sympathetic nervous system. So when the sympathetic nervous system used to be turned on to help somebody escape danger, it's kind of turned on all the time now. And so, even sitting in traffic or going to the grocery store, sitting in a meeting, we have a really hard time of shutting down that sympathetic nervous system and staying in the mindful moment. So one of the things that I find that's particularly beneficial to our patients is helping people to increase that intensity of joy and gratitude and shutting down that sympathetic nervous system. on the flip side of that sympathetic nervous system is the parasympathetic nervous system, or that rest, relax, response, recover side. And those two cannot be turned on together. So when one is turned on, the other is turned off, and vice versa. So if I can pull somebody into that parasympathetic nervous system response, then I know that we're taking people's stress levels down. So gratitude has shown us that it decreases stress, it decreases feelings of depression, it decreases feelings of anxiety. So expressing gratitude is associated with a host of mental and psychological benefits. But they're also closely tied to physiological benefits. So we know that it increases sleep, it improves energy, it improves digestion. All of these things are, I think, so vital to having, overall well-being. And I just think to myself, can you imagine if this was in a pill form? People would be jumping to get this, right? And it's just a simple practice that we can all instill all of these physiological and psychological benefits. So many benefits.
Yeah, I want the pill. Let's
The pill is simple gratitude, right? You probably do it on a regular basis with your practice.
Yeah, and I've been playing with this meditation where you breathe in and out from the heart. And you can also think about some type of emotion or maybe an event that makes you joyful or happy when you think about it, maybe some pleasant memory. And it doesn't have to be very long. The meditation could be really 30 seconds or a minute. And that's been really helpful. I've noticed how it, as you said, the relaxation response, or the parasympathetic nervous system, seems to activate.
Yeah.
So when you say it's tough, so how do we do this if it's tough? Like, what if it does feel like really unnatural to start this type of practice?
Yeah. I do think it's tough. I do think that this is something that doesn't feel natural to people. There are so many different ways that we can do it. I think back to a story of a group that I ran, and I want to share a little bit about how this came to play right in front of me probably about 3 or 4 years ago. So it was right before COVID, and we were still doing in-person group visits. And we lead several groups at the Mellen Center. We have a lot of different interests, and so we try to match people with groups that are of interest to them, or topics that are of interest to them. And one of the great things that has happened over COVID is that we are now able to do these groups as long as the person is in the state of Ohio virtually. So anybody can join these groups throughout the state of Ohio. So if anybody's on this group, we have groups for, we have a men's MS group, because we've realized that there's significant need in the men's MS community. We have a caregiver support group. That's for anybody who is caring for a loved one with multiple sclerosis or any neurological condition for that matter. We have a young professionals group, so people who are in childbearing age and or working. And then we have this, we have a sleep and fatigue group, and then we have this general MS group, which is probably, actually the men's MS group is our most popular group, but then this general MS group is our second most popular group, and it's been running for about 10 years. And about 3 years ago, the participants were in the group, and they were, they were talking like they always do. They come in and they process, and this particular day, they started to share that they were, one of them was transitioning to a walking device or assistive device. And it was very, very difficult for this person. And this person was very upset with this, and the group allowed a real safe space for the individual to process the grief that the person was having. And then one of the gentlemen in our group, who was in a wheelchair, he said he had this great idea, and I'll never forget it. He's such a great guy. And he said, I think we should have a competition. And I said, oh boy, what's happening right here? And he said, I think we should have a gratitude competition. And I said, oh, tell me more about this. I was so excited to hear about this. And he said, I know it's really hard for you to transition to this assistive device. And this person was transitioning to a cane. And he said, but guess what? You're still out here with us, and you're still able to do the things that you still want to do, which is joining us in this group and being with this, these people who are so important to you, or going to dinner, or still having the ability to function. And he said, so here's what I think we should do. We should make our whatever assistive device they're working with, we should make it something that's personalized to them, that also shows how grateful that they were for having this assistive device. And so he called it a gratitude assistive device decorating contest. So this is a weekly group. So they had a week to kind of go home and come up with their ideas. And then they showed up the next week in the group, and they came in with such creative things and things that made this a little bit more bearable for them. So for example, the gentleman with the wheelchair came in with his wheelchair completely decked out in Cavs gear. He had a jersey on the back of it. He had a hat on the front of it. He had basketballs in the front. It was so fun. The individual who had just transitioned to the cane was somebody who was loved fashion and matching. And so what she did was she was able to find cane toppers that matched her outfit. So she brought in a bag of the canes, the top of the canes, so she could show us, different pictures of her in outfits and the canes and things like that. And then another person was somebody who loved to wear her high heels, and she was no longer able to wear her high heels anymore. And so what she did was she brought in a bag with her high heels. So she walked in her tennis shoes, and then she brought in her heels that she loved so very much, and she slipped into them for the group, and she wore them for the group, and she was showing everybody and kind of just dangling them, and she just loved the fact that she could still wear her heels. And so they found ways to make peace, at least for the moment, with the situation that they were in, and to still show that they were grateful for, what they were still able to do.
I love this group work because we feed on each other's ideas, and we hear it and we think, oh, they're doing it, I could do this too.
Yep.
Some people get very, very creative with their canes.
Yep.
And I just want to mention, in yoga, we use them as props.
You do? Okay.
Yes. We use them for stretching the legs and doing side bends, and they can be very, very helpful.
Yes, they're very helpful in all situations. It's just a matter of, I think, personalizing that new accessory to you.
Yeah, and it makes it more fun, even more to be grateful for that cane.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
So how would you now, you mentioned that it was a competition, and I just want you to know, for our gratitude challenge that we've devised here, we think everybody's a winner, whether it's coming to this event and that's the only event or only gratitude activity that you do the whole month. And wonderful if you start writing down, journaling about gratitude. Whatever you do, you are a winner. How would you describe this practice as opposed to we hear so often now is a New Year's resolution? We know what the studies show, by February 1st, it's fizzling. So how do we keep this growing and becoming part of activating that gratitude muscle we were talking about?
Yeah. I think that's really a really good point. For this group, it was a competition because the gentleman who suggested it is a very competitive person. He was a basketball player, and it was really important to him to use the word competition. And I went with it. I agree with you, though. It doesn't have to be a competition. I think I would encourage people to do whatever they can. From the perspective of how it differs from a New Year's resolution, I think it differs because we're looking for a lifestyle instead of just a quick fix. I think New Year's resolutions are generally like, well, I'm going to organize this space or throw out this much stuff or lose this much weight or something like that. And they don't tend to be lifestyles. They tend to be just short bursts of things that you want to do that's better. And, like you said, you typically give up on them by February. And I would hope that gratitude becomes, it's such a good feeling if it's associated with joy. And for me, it's such a good feeling that I think, it can start as a resolution. I mean, we could say, hey, it's January 5th and it's a new year and let's start to focus on gratitude. I can't remember the exact date where I decided to focus on it. It definitely was not New Year's. But I still think that there's some people that will, put into play that New Year's is as a fresh start and they want this to be a part of their lives, and that's okay too. But it's then using, like you just said, that muscle over and over and over again, and it becomes something that you practice regularly. And I think truly once you start to see or feel or experience that joy that comes with it, it really changes your life. And it's something like, well, I really love this feeling. And so what do I have to do to get more of that? And it's the practice of gratitude. When you stop doing these intentional types of things, that feeling goes away too. And I know for myself, and I'm sure for you all too, that feeling is so important that it's something that we want to keep with us, and it's not something that's going to expire by February 1st.
Well, you said the word practice, so I have to say, when we talk about yoga, we talk about it as a practice.
Yes.
There's no good and there's no bad. People think, oh, I don't look right in a pose, and and I got to get it by the next day. But so we approach it each day like it's new. It's new. And what's my body? What's my physical body, my emotional body presenting today? And how was it impacted yesterday? And so it is a practice that we just keep beginning again and again.
Yeah.
There's no end to it. I've been practicing for over 30 years.
Yeah.
And it looks different every day.
Yeah.
How often do you think someone should pray? You mentioned regularly. So how often do you suggest, especially in the beginning? What would a practice look like in the beginning for someone just starting? What would be realistic?
Yeah, there's so many things that go into a recommendation, at least from my my side. I think I have to think about the time that a person has in their life, the strength of their intention. If there's a mood disorder associated with it, there's just a lot of things, and I don't think it's, again, a one size fits all. I think it should be tailored to each individual, but I would say nothing less than hourly. I know that's going to shock you because from my perspective,
wait! I thought you were going to say once a day.
No,
hourly. Whoa,
hourly. And I think it's crazy to hear that, but I think when you get into this practice, like right now, I'm just so grateful to be here with you guys. So I just, I'm using that. I'm using my 1 hour every hour to say that. Gratitude for me is an all day long thing. It is how I choose to live my life. It's when I wake up and I have gratitude that I get to, do my daughter's hair or help my son pack his lunch, or that I have a husband who is very present and helps with all of this too. Or, on my way into work, I look at the Cleveland Clinic every morning as the sun is coming up over the buildings. And I've been there 15 years and it never ceases to amaze me. I am in awe every morning that I walk into my building, because I get to work with the most incredible colleagues, with the most incredible patients. And I have so much gratitude for being able to serve patients and for them to be a blessing to me, and hopefully vice versa. But, my patients tell me things that they're so vulnerable. They tell me things that they don't share with even their, most significant other. And it is definitely something that I'm grateful with. There's so many things that I can be grateful for. When I'm walking to the bathroom, if I see somebody that I haven't seen in a long time, I'm grateful to see them. So for me, it's every hour. It's all the time. There's something to be grateful for. Is it hard? Yeah. But it's something that I choose. It's a lifestyle that I choose, and it's very similar to the way that I breathe. It's a very intentional breath that I've learned over the years, and probably very similar to what you practice, but it's that deep breath, so it doesn't get stuck in that chest. It goes into the diaphragm, and that's very intentional too. And but eventually that becomes your norm. And so it's something that I think, with a huge dose of gratitude, we are all here, all alive. We've all gotten to 11:57 on January 5th of 2023. And I'm older, so I know that 2023 from where I was born was a long time, and I can't even imagine like what I thought about as an 8 or 10 or 12-year-old being that we're at 2023, but we are. And we're together right now. We're here and able to serve others. And I think that for me, I aim for hourly. For my patients, we do it based on what they can give.
I like that answer, based on what you can give.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you're having a rough hour, find something. Should we set a timer?
You could, if that's going to help you. I do think it starts to come naturally, though. The more you practice it, it does come natural. Like my dog is sitting at my feet right now, and I can't tell you how many times like I have like leaned down to like just rub his little neck, and you can probably hear him snoring. He's just so content, and I'm just so grateful that he's sitting right here at my feet right now. It's just, you just find those things and focus on them.
I love, someone said there's a difference between hard and not easy. Love it. People are
Love that.
expressing much gratitude, Amy.
Oh, thank you.
What resources do you recommend? Do you have any go-to resources? And I see, I had that question on my list, and someone made it more specific and said, for someone in particular who has MS or a chronic illness.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I love the book. It's just called Choosing Gratitude, and it's really a quick read. It's something that I was in Barnes and Noble when my kids get these little, like, it's your birthday, come in and get a free Rice Krispie treat or whatever, and it was right there in front of me, and I was like, this looks very interesting. I picked it up, and I was just so enthralled by it. So there's a book called Choosing Gratitude that I love. I think the other is having a partner who wants to practice with you, or somebody who's going to hold you accountable to this. And also knowing, thinking about those studies, right, that we talked about earlier, just knowing that people are watching, and that your response dictates how somebody else is going to respond to you, and vice versa, right? So I think if we approach people with happiness or empathy or gratitude or whatever it is that we want more of, we'll get more of that back in our lives. And so this oftentimes holds me accountable, just by knowing that I have people watching me and wanting to make sure that they're doing the same things. Also, I'm a big quote person, and I think there are, if you just Google gratitude quotes, they're all over the place. But the ones that I've chosen as the ones that I think are really meaningful to me are associated again with gratitude and joy. So one of the ones that I love is it's not joy that makes us grateful, it's gratitude that makes us joyful. And that to me just really sinks in. Another one that I love is this one. It says, the more grateful I am, the more beauty I see. And then the final one that I pulled that I think is just really beautiful is, the greatest source of happiness is the ability to be grateful at all times. Those are I think quotes, like putting inspirational quotes wherever, in your phone or on your mirror at home, or in your car as you're driving. I think these are ways that I hold myself accountable to.
Those are really beautiful quotes.
Thanks.
And there's so many out there. I love this idea that Vicky said in the chat. She started a grateful group. Love it.
Love that.
With 5 other people, and they text each other nightly with something they're grateful for.
See, that's
And
the accountability partner. I love that. Great idea.
yeah, we might have to steal that idea too.
Yeah.
Is that copyrighted? Someone asked where you get your bracelets.
My bracelets, you know what? My best friend makes them. It's called Mini Me bracelets. She's on Etsy, but she makes them, and I am the first person that has asked her to put mantras in them, and so now she sells a lot of those because she actually put them on her website and has, sold a lot of them. But everybody's mantra is different. So actually for Christmas this year, my husband ended up getting me this new one, which is strength. I love it. So thanks.
I think she's going to get a lot of visits on her Etsy.
Mini Me bracelets. Yeah.
Someone said with gratitude, optimism is sustainable. Really, really
Love
like
that.
that one. April asked who wrote the book you like, which is called Choosing Gratitude.
Oh, I'll have to pull it from my shelf and get that to you.
Yeah, and I'll send a follow-up email to everyone with the recording. Let's see, are there any other questions here? Oh, Gina just put in the chat how to find the book. It's Nancy
Yes.
DeMoss or
Yes,
Nancy Lee.
yes.
Yes,
Thank
yes,
you.
yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Gina. Let's see.
Is it a white cover? Is it a white cover with yellow on it?
Yes, it sure
And it
is.
has the word joy in it. Yes. Okay, that's it. I
These
think
guys
the
are
second part of
fast.
it is like finding your joy or something like that.
Yeah, Choosing Gratitude by Nancy Lee DeMoss.
Awesome.
Awesome. Any other questions? Someone said you offer virtual services outside of Ohio. I'm not sure if that's related to the gratitude topic.
We don't. We are only licensed in the state of Ohio. Yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions that anybody has before we wrap up today? I am so grateful because I feel like we don't spend, just by spending time doing this, it's really lighting a flame and sparking our interest, and learning just little ways that we can start integrating this into our day. Do you want to list maybe some examples that are not money?
Sure.
Notice that actually nobody's talked about money today, like as a way of showing or giving gratitude.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that I wanted to comment on is just what you said, that I wonder if people can think about how you felt coming into this conversation, just physiologically and emotionally, and then how do you feel now? I know when I start to focus on gratitude and the practice of gratitude, like I can feel it in my stomach. It's like these beautiful butterflies kind of starting to send all of this positive endorphins throughout my body. And I hope that you guys are able to feel that too. From a psychological perspective, I always feel happier when I talk about it. And so when I'm very stressed, one of the first things that I do is to find something I'm grateful for. And there's a lot of them. And, looking at a picture or just, calling somebody and telling them. And so I hope that has happened for all of you guys. Ask me the question one more time. I forgot what to ask because I was so focused on answering the other question. That's what Americans do. Gosh, we want to answer our own questions, right? I'm sorry about that. What was the question?
No, I think that's good. I mean, I was just looking for a little bit more examples of people are struggling with how to start. That's not, that doesn't involve any money, something they can just start doing.
Yeah.
As they even leave our discussion today.
Yeah. Well, I think we have to remember that gratitude is a way of appreciating what we have versus what we don't have. And so when you're stressed, looking through your pictures and finding whatever is important to you, looking around you, looking for somebody that you're grateful for, just knowing that you're in the warmth of wherever you are, saying what you are grateful for out loud, writing a handwritten card. This was huge over COVID when my kids were home. I taught, we were focusing a lot on gratitude. And so we sent batches of handwritten cards out to people. And knowing that you're doing something for somebody who may be lonely or for somebody who, is having a hard time, and a handwritten card showing up in their mailbox. I mean, I don't know what the cost of
handwritten card?
handwritten
Do
cards.
those
I don't know what the
exist?
cost of a stamp is. It's like 70 cents, right? Or I don't even know. But yeah, like having them write a handwritten card and know the excitement that they had placing that in a mailbox, knowing that it's going to go to somebody who's going to really love getting a handwritten card. One of the things that my daughter did years ago, well, she's done it several times. I shared that I had cancer at a very early age. At 5 years old, my daughter decided to organize her first hair drive. And so she organized a small little one at 5. But when I hit my 5-year anniversary, she decided that she wanted to do a hair drive she organized a huge hair drive, and we donated over 12 pounds of hair. And that was really special to see, that she's just so grateful that, we had the care that we did, and that, we were lucky. And most recently, my daughter is 12 now. She has created this little candy business, and she's created this business called Annie's Sweets and Goodies, and that's on Facebook. And it's so cute because she creates these chocolate masterpieces, and she makes about 10 cents per item, and each item is around $1, and she ships all over the United States. But there's a beautiful article on her there, and this is not a plug for her business, but what I'm going to tell you is she does not take that money, she donates it. So most recently, so she's had this business for 4 years. She donates little portions, and my husband and I have been able to match her throughout the process. But she's been saving for this huge donation. And so most recently she donated $1,000. And remember, she makes 10 cents per item. So it took her a really
How
long
long did
time,
that take?
4
That's
years
so
for her to do this.
beautiful.
I know. She donated $1,000 to the Cleveland Clinic breast cancer research, comprehensive research program. And so she was able to actually walk it into the clinic and give, it's my oncologist, but give him a hug. And I think these are ways that, she pays for all of her items. I drive to get the items, but, she pays for all of them, and then she takes that portion and donates it. And so I think there are ways that we can be, this is all her raising money or doing hair drives or whatever, being grateful for a certain whatever and giving back in ways that are non-monetary.
We have so many beautiful comments coming in, and yes, there's 3 Ginas on this call. And they're just there's so much gratitude coming on here. I hope you're seeing some of them.
I just clicked on them, and hey, Stacy, we're sisters now.
We got hearts and smiley faces and thumbs ups, and someone is an author. I know I just saw that.
Oh, Gina Fletcher. I wrote a book called Stumble to Rise with My Own Simple Gratitude. Wow. Look at this. You should be the one on here, Gina, not me. I haven't written a book on this. This is awesome.
That's what's so beautiful about sharing in a group.
Yep.
I loved reading that that one of your interests is group dynamics.
Oh, I love groups. I think group helps people to see that they're not alone. So often we go through life and we think to ourselves, gosh, we're the only person dealing with this, and we're not. It's nice to hear that other people have gone through or are going through similar situations, and also to hear how they've coped.
So as we wrap up, I want to remind you that we have prompts. They're on social media. They've been in the emails. I'm assuming most of you received one of our emails. I apologize, but we just keep putting it out there and hoping that people will see it. And we're so thankful that so many of you came on the call today. And yes, someone asked about the recording, and we will be sending it out to everybody who registered. And thank you to all of you who helped donate to make this possible today. I love getting to know you and seeing your faces, and We View Yoga Moves as a community. Please make yourself known to me. Send me an email or a text. If you have any questions for Dr. Sullivan, I will certainly pass them on. She's very, very responsive.
I'm typing this in the chat. Somebody asked about my daughter's business. It's called Annie's Sweets and Goodies. It's on Facebook. If you do anything, look at the article that they wrote about her. I think it's so awesome that she was 11 at the time it was written, that this little 11-year-old has like figured out how to be grateful. So I give back. So I'm really proud of her.
And you have great reason to be.
Thanks.
I see someone invited all of us, Kimberly, to the Heart Estuary project. I'm very curious to check that out as well. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to see you, Joshua, and have all of you on today. And any parting words as we leave, Dr. Amy Sullivan?
No, not from me. I guess I'm just I can't say it enough. I'm so grateful to be here today. Stacy, you got this. You go, girl. You got it. I'm looking right at you. You got this. And you're bringing tears to my eyes because I know what it's like. And you know, many of us will probably go through this on this journey because it's 1 in 8. But yeah, you got my thoughts and prayers. Thank you for letting me be here today.
Thank you for being here today. Everyone take your hands to your hearts, whether we can see you or not, and breathe deeply. So start, as Dr. Sullivan said, breathe from your belly up and imagine you're breathing into your heart, inhaling, and then exhaling out from your heart with so much gratitude for you all being here today. Thank you. Namaste. I hope to see you at we have 2 other programs this month. On the 14th, we have a TEDx talker, Jacqueline Way, who's from 365 Give. I'm super excited to be with her and hope you will join us and spread the word. And then Megan Weigel, who is an MS nurse specialist and just published a bestseller, Monday Mantras with Megan. So we've had 3 amazing events planned for you, and keep up the journaling and the prompts and let us know how you're doing. I will send you a survey as well. Take care, everyone. Namaste.
Namaste.